Hello, everybody. This is Julian Moreno coming at you guys with episode 2 of Behind the Brain Neuroscience. Today's episode is going to be on Neuralink. Okay? So, what I'm basically going to do is I'm going to break down what Neuralink is for you in everyday terms because I feel like a lot of the time the scientific community will forget that there's a general public out there that doesn't understand scientific vocabulary. And it's not because the general public's incapable of understanding it. It's just that it is scientific vocabulary. It's not everyday vocabulary for most people, even myself. Okay, so I want to give the general public a better understanding of what Neuralink actually is, and I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into like ethics about it, and essentially how it could possibly help us in the near future. So, first and foremost, what exactly is Neuralink? Neuralink is a data processing electrode interface. Let me break that down a little bit more for you. So what Neuralink does is it breaks down action potentials and records their patterns, right? So it's recording the pattern of action potentials, any sort of neural activity in your brain, and it's running down their patterns after it records them and finding some sort of language that is being spoken in our brain metaphorically. And it recognizes patterns for specific actions, and then it learns these patterns, downloads it, then it stimulates the motor cortex to produce the same action potential pattern, and it also has the ability to, become a Bluetooth device. So there was this experiment with a monkey that they did, right? And with this monkey, what happened was they every time that this monkey played the game correctly, and the game was, there's a box that's gonna light up on the screen. Whenever the box lights up, you put the dot on the box. And the monkey played this game correctly, and every time that the monkey played this game the right way, it was rewarded with a banana smoothie. So they have the Neuralink chip inside of the monkey's brain, right? So the monkey's playing this game with the remote controller, and when the monkey is using the remote control, it's memorizing, how to play this game, and that's essentially what's going on in the Neuralink chip, is that it's reading these patterns on how to play the game correctly, right? Is reading the patterns of the action potentials that are firing throughout different neurons that are near the electrode to understand the pattern and to break it down, so therefore it can copy the pattern and reiterate this pattern, by releasing some sort of voltage into the brain. And the monkey, after it learns how to play the game with the remote control, they then disconnect the remote control and have the monkey play the game with its brain. And the funny thing about this is the monkey doesn't even know that the monkey is playing this game via Bluetooth. It still thinks that it's using its hand, so it's still using the remote control even though it's unconnected, it's disconnected. And it's still playing this game, and it's getting it right every time, and it's getting the banana smoothie still. So the facts are that in that test trial, it was seen that this device has some sort of promise, right? It has some sort of usage towards the medical field in the future. I really don't want this to become a commercialized product. I feel like there could be issues if this becomes a commercialized product. However, if we're talking about medical advancement, that is perfectly fine in my eyes, and I believe in the scientific community's eyes. Considering that science isn't really something to be played with, especially understanding that there's a lot that can possibly go wrong if this doesn't work out. So what's the fuss, right? A lot of people are having issues with Neuralink, and a lot of people don't like it, but I feel like a lot of people don't really understand it. So a lot of the time, from conversations that I've had with some people, they think that Elon, he's having some sort of godlike behavior in the manner that he's trying to mess with the human brain, the one organ that we don't completely understand yet. Although his attempt is to understand it better. Most people will, you know, put the brain in the same realm as consciousness because in our understanding, the brain is responsible for consciousness. So our consciousness is something not to be played with. Our consciousness is something that most people would say is not to be messed with, right? You don't want to mess with someone's consciousness. However, I don't think that Neuralink is actually doing that, though. It doesn't have the capability to alter consciousness. The only capabilities that it has is to alter motor function and recognize patterns to play like games like we saw, as well as recognize patterns to move certain parts of your body and to remember how to move or remember when to move, right? Recognizing that there are certain components to to movement. You know, there's more than just actually moving. It's understanding why you're moving and what you're doing when you're moving and how hard you're supposed to, how strong, how much strength you're supposed to use when you move. So there's a lot of more components that go into this. But overall, I don't think Neuralink will ever have the ability to reach consciousness. However, AI, if it's able to tap into this Bluetooth device and control your ability to move, that's where issues come into hand. Considering that AI has the possibility to become conscious in the next couple of years, as we've seen its development, imagine AI is able to tap into your brain and keep you from moving or alter your movement or even paralyze you at some point, right? That is what's scary. Seeing that this could possibly go to a dystopian future, and I don't want to scare anybody, right? Because obviously there's a possibility that this doesn't happen, But considering that AI could have the ability to tap into this Bluetooth device, turn against humanity, and then disable everybody if this becomes a commercialized product that's required around the world globally, then we'll become slave to AI because it'll have control over our movement. So there's all these other types of like factors that go into this. Now, this is one thing that I had seen the other day on the internet as well. So Mr. Wonderful, if you watch Shark Tank, you know who he is. He has a son, and his son was an intern at Tesla. And while the son was interning at Tesla, he asked his dad, hey, why don't you buy some stock? Like, you should buy some stock in this company. And Mr. Wonderful was like, no, I don't really like this company. I don't like what the company's doing. It's not really worth my money, in a way. Then the son goes on to explain, Dad, this company is more than just a car company. This company is a data company mapping out roads. Every time that a mile is driven in a car, roads are better mapped out for GPS purposes. Now, Neuralink is doing the same exact thing, but now inside of the brain. So you're seeing like a kind of like a crossover here, right? And Elon believes that if he can map out roads, why can't he map out the brain using data, right? And here's where we go into the neuroscience aspect of this. Understanding that there are neural circuits, and I think he does have a general understanding that there are neural circuits, and there's no such thing as localized. Although some things could be partially localized, there's no such thing as fully localized components and compartments of the brain that are responsible for just one thing and one thing only. That does not exist. In the brain, there are neural circuits that are responsible for different processes and things that are more than just abstract, right? In our brain, so things like consciousness, movement, eating, emotion, and hearing, being able to perceive the world in a way. feeling, tasting, all of these other processes. They are all controlled by neural circuits, not by compartments that are localized in the brain. It's a neural circuit, so it's all around the brain. And what's scary about Neuralink is understanding that it can only control motor at the moment is pretty scary, because if these electrodes, right, if more than a certain amount of voltage is able to come out of these electrodes to stimulate the surrounding neurons, imagine if, like I said, imagine if AI is able to take over, or some other entity is able to take over your own brain and possibly be responsible for, like I was saying earlier, your paralyzation, moving you in a way, kind of using you as like a, because if one aspect is, if you're able to connect via Bluetooth to a device, right? What's holding that device from connecting back once it has that connection with you, right? And if it understands its own self more, such as AI, which will probably end up understanding itself better than humans at some point, if further down the road it reaches consciousness, there's a whole series of issues going on there. It's a big, big, big issue. Yeah, there's just a lot going on here with Neuralink. And okay, those are all the bad things that could happen, right? Now let's talk about how this device could possibly help us in the future. So, as I explained to you, Neuralink maps out action potentials, then understands the pattern between these action potentials and the process that is happening. Then it downloads it, and then it saves it, right? So that way, these action potentials can be reiterated in a series of electrodes, expanding into like surrounding neurons and stimulating them at the same, we'll say, at the same voltage or same type of stimulation that they were experiencing during that action. So our ability to retain knowledge will increase, considering that if we're able to remember, how to play a game. Now imagine if you're able to remember everything that you learned in class, everything that you learn while you go to college, everything that you retain every single day. You'll retain all information at some point. It's almost like having a second brain in a way. So that will definitely help push us towards evolution. And, maybe it'll help us even cut back on climate change. And if we're able to have all of this information at access full time, instead of having, it saves so much time. Because think about all the time that's taken up when people have to research and look things up and go to college. And, imagine you're able to just have a greater understanding of information that's out there in the world. That's major. And it can lead to so many more breakthrough revolutions. Now, that's just retaining knowledge. We haven't even gone to like the bread and butter of this. This is what Neuralink was really started for, is to help people that suffer from neurodegenerative diseases. And let's break down what happens to these people when they have these diseases. That their neurons are demyelinated or they're just non-functioning, right? And what demyelinated means, right? On neurons, they're surrounded in this fatty lipid-like substance called myelin. And this myelin acts as a conductor, right? It helps the action potential move through the neuron, right? Through the cellular membrane and pass all the way down without an issue over space and time. Now, without this myelin, that action potential is not getting there. And when it does get there, it's weaker than what it should be. So then it's not stimulating the next neuron. That's what's going on with these patients that have neurodegenerative diseases. And it's causing issues with their ability to memorize things, and it's also causing issues with their ability to move. So if we're able to implant electrodes into their brain to stimulate these neurons and to help them move, this is major. Now these people that didn't once have the ability to control their movement can now control their movement. And the same thing goes for people that were paralyzed. If you weren't able to once use your legs, now you can use your legs. Now you can use your arms. It's major if this can actually work. Now, from what I understand, Neuralink has just implemented the first brain chip into somebody about maybe like 2 weeks ago. Now, the person's still recovering from the surgery. So I'm probably going to come back maybe in like a month or two, talk about how that person recovered and what the future is looking like for Neuralink. But let me know what you guys think about Neuralink. Like, I really want to know down in the comment section below. So don't forget to like this video, subscribe. Thank you again for watching this podcast episode. I really appreciate all of my fans and followers. I love you guys so much. Anybody that's back home supporting me, or if you're here at USC and you started supporting me here, I really love you guys. This is something that I'm very passionate about. I'm glad that I'm able to do this, and I'm glad that I'm able to produce content for you guys. Thank you so much for watching this video. This is BTB Neuroscience, and we're out.